Hey guys, Helen Hartsmith here again from the Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel. Hope you're having a good day. I am. I'm here to record my video response for the 2018 YouTube Pagan Challenge. This is for the letter R. R. I feel like I'm a pirate. R. Anyhow, for R, I chose to talk about runes. For those of you who may or may not know, I work with Odin Father as a patron deity. And so a few years ago, I started working with runes more. And I think that they are a really interesting magical tool. I'm going to call them a tool. And I think divination falls into a magical tool, but I think that runes are much larger than just the thought of using them as divination. And so that's why I call them a magical tool. I took a class at Convocation a couple of years ago, like maybe 3 years ago, and it was very interesting rune class. And the presenter talked about how he uses runes made from different materials for different purposes and different kinds of readings. And so I thought that was very interesting. As a witch, I knew of runes prior to taking that class, and I had a couple of sets that I hadn't really used, but Odin Father had kind of come forward wanting to work with me. And so knowing that he is the one that sacrificed himself for the purpose of getting the runes to use, I knew that runes were something that I wanted to learn more about. And so also in this class, the presenter talked about how he asks the runes what kind of offering he can make to them to work with them. And so I thought that was also an interesting idea and something that I kind of started thinking about as well. And so I thought that I have a couple of sets of runes, and I thought that I would talk with you about what they're made from and what I use them for. Okay, so here is my first set. This is actually a set of runes that were made for me. And I guess I should say that both of my sets were made. And so I think that that's kind of, I think there's a connection there that's made that you might not get from something that's purchased. That's why I'm very much a crafty witch, and I try to make as much of my stuff as I can. You know, if I can make something, I'm going to do my best to make it. So yeah, so that's kind of cool. So these are, here is one. So as I said, let me try to get this to focus a little better. There we go. So this is a set of runes that were made for me by a couple of coven sisters from actually the first coven that I belonged to. So these are made from a clay, from I think it's like a poly resin clay. So there's the back of it. It's got a little texture on the back of it. And as you can see, it is a red and silver swirl. And I love that because, as you can tell, I kind of like silver jewelry. And as a fire sign, red is one of my favorite colors. And so this, I believe, was a Yule gift for me. And so I had them, but hadn't really used them for much of anything. And so after that particular presentation, I started pulling them out and started using them a little more. There's a couple of others. So we have Degus. Oh gosh, I'm going to murder the names now. Jera and Perthro. That's these 3 runes. And so these runes I only use for myself. Okay. And I have a special offering of thanks that I basically struck the bargain with these particular runes. And I'm not going to share what the offering is in particular, but what I will say is that it is an offering of such that I am the only one that touches these runes, these particular runes. It's kind of it's a very personal offering. And so I will oftentimes I haven't carried them with me lately, but now that I'm doing this video, I might just throw them in the work bag, and pull. What I try to do with tarot and with with runes is pull one a day with the intent of, what do I need to know for today? And so as far as meanings for runes, like so many things, there are many interpretations out there. Of course, runes stand for specific words in the Norse language. And so there is interpretations of what those words are, and there are interpretation of what they mean and why that particular word goes with that particular rune. And I actually kind of go back when I look at runes and look at their meanings for divination or message purposes, I go back to the Teutonic meanings. There is a gentleman out there, he has a YouTube channel, and he does a podcast, although I'm not entirely sure how active he is anymore because I haven't sought him out recently, but he is Thunder Wizard. And so I will put a link in the description box to his YouTube channel. I listened to a series of podcasts where he talked about the, and these are I use the Elder Futhark set of runes. And he talks about them. They're the Elder Futhark, for those of you who aren't familiar with runes, are broken up into 3 8-rune sections. So they're known as the first 8, the second 8, and the third 8. And so Thunder Wizard does a series of podcasts where he talks about them in those 3 groupings. So it's a series of 3 podcasts. And I know that I use Podcast Addict on my phone, and you can do searches for podcasts because I have an Android phone. And so I think that you might be able to find him on iTunes, but you can definitely go through Podcast Addict. And that's where I originally found the runes. So he breaks them into the 3, and he really centers on the Teutonic, which the Teutonic people are older than the Norse as a people. Basically the same area of the world. I don't want to get into like the history of it or what have you, but they're an older people. And so Thunder Wizard, he talks about how he believes that that's a closer meaning to what the actual use for the runes are. And so that's why he works with that. And so that is what I use when doing divination purposes. Okay. So this is my first set of runes. My second set of runes, I actually keep in this really cool, when I first kind of went pagan, I was very much interested in Native American spiritualism. And so this is a birch bark bowl that I bought this, and I've had it for years. I've had it since college. So I'm not even sure where I got it, but that is where these runes live. So this is a set of runes that I made. These are made from maple. And these were an ethically harvested branch what happened was Kathy has a pretty big yard at her house. And a few years ago, we had some pretty nasty ice storms, and it caused numerous tree branches to fall in various trees in her yard. And so in the spring, she picked them up and she pulled out numerous branches that were thick enough to do things like this. And she let them dry out, and her husband sliced them for us. So much thanks to Kathy's husband for doing that. And then what we did, we didn't particularly peel off the bark, but a lot of them during the drying process, I think a lot of the bark fell off from there. And so we then sanded the two sides, and then we used a wood burner to burn the runes into the wood. So here we have Uruz. I see Gebu. There's Gebu there. We have Othala. And so I just used a pencil to draw the rune on, and then I used my wood burner, which is not as scary a tool to use as I was first scared of. Of course, if you're a young person, you need to have some adult supervision when it comes to using the wood burner, because it is hot, and it is dangerous, but it's not as dangerous as I first feared. And so this is a set of runes. I actually leave this I have what I call my coven bag, and so it's got all of my coven stuff. So when I have a ritual, I just snatch that up. It's got my cords and things like that. I actually, yes, the runes live in this bowl, but then I put this bowl in a big Ziploc plastic baggie so nothing gets lost, and it goes in my coven bag. And so oftentimes during ritual, we have segments of divination, and so we have tarot cards available, we have Ogham, we have runes, and depending on what you wish, you can pull, and then we usually discuss the meaning while we feast afterward. And so that's what I use that for a lot. So that is a set that other people are allowed to use. So I've done a video on rune books that I own. So I won't really go into that again here. I will put a link in the description box if you want to have more information about that. But I thought that I would share my favorite rune book, and that would be this book, Taking Up the Runes by Diana Paxson. And I like this book because she, if you know anything about runes, Edred Thorson is kind of the authority, and he's done tons of books on runes, and he's a good writer. I dig him. But there's also some other folks like Snorri and things like that. And the reason that I like Diana's book is because she kind of takes the best of all of those books and brings them together in one volume. And so this book is actually broken up into chapters where she covers 2 runes per chapter. Plus, there's a back section that has rituals that are designed again around those 2 runes per chapter. And so I really like how she put all of that together. And so I will do a thorough review on this book at some point. It just hasn't happened yet, but this is my favorite rune book. So I thought I would share with that. Now, one other thing that I want to share about runes is that you can also use them in the bind rune format for magical purposes. And what a bind rune is taking 2 or more runes and you draw them together so that you can bring both of their aspects together to bring it together for a magical purpose. I hope I'm hopefully that's not too wordy and makes sense. But I have a bind rune for protection that I will often use. And so I might draw that on a piece of paper and leave it in my car as a protection, or I might draw it on something that I want to protect. You know, you could use your finger and you could draw that onto the item that you want to protect. You might want to draw it on your electronic equipment for protection, things like that. There's also things like drawing prosperity and things like that. And so you can use bind runes for that. And there's, I don't know if they have a name, but you can do Google searches for bind runes, and there you will come up with bind runes that have been used for centuries, and so that's really cool. Or you can come up with your own bind runes, so you can look at the meanings for each rune and seek out those that you want to work with and put them together. Now, one thing that I would stress is that you want to be aware when making bind runes that there isn't an additional rune in your drawing that might throw off what you're doing. If you are interested in me doing, because I've done some designing of my own bind runes, and I've also used like pre-established ones, I guess I should say. So if you're interested in me doing a video that talks a little bit more about bind runes, because that just takes a little bit more explanation than just saying what I just did. So if you're wanting something with a little more information, then let me know and I can share with you some of my experiences. I would not consider myself an expert, but it is something that I've played around with. So definitely. So let me know if you would like something like that, and I would gladly, see what I could put together. So that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, or if you learned something from it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. I love to have you come back and see what's cooking here at the channel. If you use runes, then let me know. If you have read this book and like it or don't like it, let me know. If there's a rune book that you like more, let me know. Things like that. So be sure to do that. You can also email me at heartofthewitchespath@yahoo.com. There's also an Instagram and a Facebook page. So go out and please follow and like those things. And that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and thanks for walking the path for a little while with me. Until next time, blessed be.